all these beautiful words from Mike, and then you see me appearing in probably the most dull close of the entire conference. So I hope that in the end of the keynote today, you will actually think, well, you know, he looked a bit strange, but it was exciting. And that's what I'm trying to do today. We're going to have a keynote where I'm going to give you a little bit of context on, you know, how can technology play a role. I want to break through your mental barriers, and we're actually going to do an exercise which I did a long time ago, but not recently, so it's going to be exciting. But then I want to focus on, you know, what is now the technology, how can we deploy it? But in the end, I also would like to come back to what is then the relevancy for you as testers and quality people. So that will be a bit of the ride that we're going to have in the coming 50 minutes. And I want to do it as energetic as possible because I know that I am between you and your beer. So I will try to take notice of that. I already said to Mike, I can do 3 hours. He said, Frank, it's beer after you. I said, okay, let's do 50 minutes then. So what are we going to talk about? Let me just, okay. I don't see it yet here. If we can arrange that, that would be beautiful. This is a bad picture, and Mike actually said, you know, when he called me, he said, Frank, do you want to do the keynote? He said, but one thing, last year we had dystopia, I don't want to hear anything about bad news. So this is the only picture that I had with, yes, we can talk about all the shit that technology is creating in the world, but we're not going to do it. We're actually going to focus on, you know, what is now actually happening from a positive perspective. And there's a lot of things actually from a positive perspective. And I crossed the 50-year line. I know you can't see it, but when I crossed it, you know, I start thinking, and sometimes when I talk with my kids, you know, you start reflecting that in the past it was better. But actually in the past it was not better. So if you look at from 2050 on, we had 50% less deaths from infectious diseases, minus 75% on infant mortality, and our life expectancy increased with 50%. The only where it's not increasing anymore is in the US, but that's a different story. Since 1960, you know, we are able to produce 200% more crops. Think about it. If we start talking about, you know, we grow, the only problem is we grew a little bit harder as society and humanity. So there we need to find a balance. I will come back on that one. 50% less of population actually suffering from malnutrition. But also, you know, industrial productivity went up, whilst actually we did it with less productivity hours. So we can spend things like life balance, which we, of course, also did not have in the past. And of course, it happened also from 2000 onwards because, you know, computing just exploded. And this is something that we need to think about. And yesterday we had a little bit of talk about, you know, the role of generative AI in testing. And there were some comments also about, yeah, but will it be a hype cycle and is not too much money goes in? Think about metaverse. But always remember, if a hype comes up, we start pushing money in, which goes in the infrastructure, and later we start reaping it, the benefits from it. So if you think about it, you know, the internet bubble in 2001 was not bad, because in the meantime we started putting cables all over in the oceans, and that gave us the infrastructure based on which we are working right now. So all the things that are happening right now will potentially reflect later. And if you then see these numbers, can you imagine what actually the art of the possible will be towards the future? But we still need to actually, you know, deal with a couple of problems, because we still need in 2035 that we need 30% more food, we need 40% more drink water, and we need 50% more energy, because everybody wants to charge their phone and multiple laptops, etc. I don't know with you, but if I now go to my hotel, in the night I'm really installing a whole sequence of devices that actually needs to be charged. How are we actually going to cater for that? And in the meantime, with all these good things, can we also reduce the CO2 emission? Because else we have a different problem that we all need to face. We're enjoying the beautiful weather now in Budapest, but the question is, of course, you know, do we really want it all the time? And the answer is probably not. So do we get there? And the book that changed my life and my perspective on technology is The Singularity is Near, from Ray Kurzweil, who Bill Gates says the man most likely to predict the future. If you didn't read the book yet, but I trust you all did it, then definitely do it. But he actually talks about the different epochs on the technology change and how we actually leverage the previous technology to accelerate the next technology wave. So as we all know, you know, we came on the big stress on Moore's law. Can we still double the capacity? And then it was, no, we have to write code smarter. You know, I think you all play a big role in that. But now we know, hey, with AI, you know, we are not going to design the next chip. You know, it's actually the AI that probably is going to help us design the next chip. So, you know, we build on the next technologies, and he has a definition of the 6 epochs, in which, in the end, we can make universe smart. So I'm actually able to create and leverage the energy from a rock to make it computing power. So in the end, everything is computing power. And again, if you see the previous page, a lot of the things that we could do to create good actually came from the computing power that we actually had. I had the privilege of meeting this woman, and she gave a lecture. It's Susan Hockfield. She was the first female director of MIT. And she said, science, math, and engineering can give you the accelerating power to become not mere spectators or consumers, but the active explorers, makers, and doers who will help invent the future. And that's you. You are part of that. Not only you, but we need to cross-fertilize with other disciplines. And I will give a couple of examples like that. Frans Johansson wrote the book, The Medy Effect, where he says innovation comes where different disciplines come and cross together. And he calls it the Medy Effect because the Renaissance started flourishing in Florence because they not only got painters, but they got sculptors, they got scientists. And they all started working together to create new things. And today I was in a brilliant session on user story analysis, where indeed it was about how do we collaborate? How do we bring different disciplines together? It was also this morning with Marit, you know, where she indeed said, you know, it's about how do we collaborate? How do we give feedback? And I'm going to challenge you today to give feedback on a completely different level. That will be my promise to you. If you are interested, this is also a great book of Susan Hockfield, because she also said it's not so much about information technology as such. It is actually the combination of information technology and biotechnology. And whatever you believe, you know, the breakthrough of COVID medicine, you know, whether it was a hoax or not, I leave that all to anybody to have an opinion about it. But it was not by accident that the Nobel Prize this year actually was about mRNA discovery. It is about, you know, how can we now connect biotechnology and information technology and actually change things. And again, I will come with a couple of examples. But it only can change if we put our purpose into it. And that's why my title for today is Connecting the Bits with the Beats. If we can connect the bits of the software with our heartbeat, there's one thing that the heart never is wrong, and that is in the choices. So your heart always knows what the right choice is. But how do you deploy it? The only problem is you will think, yeah, Frank, you know, nice talk, being like nice, energetic, don't drink so much Red Bull. But those are barriers. And the question is, how can you break through our barrier? And we're actually going to break through a barrier. And I can't do it with everybody, but I want to do it with one of you on behalf of everybody. And you're actually going to help and be supportive of that. And we're going to break literally through a barrier. And I need to have a volunteer. And I have a volunteer over here. So can you please go forward? Big hand for our volunteer. Come on stage. Hi, Frank.
How you doing, Phil?
Phil.
Yeah.
Phil, you're going to break on behalf of the whole group through the barrier of, you know, what is now actually possible. And I'm going to use a nice thing for that. It's an arrow. Can I have somebody that actually displays, because I want you to feel this is not a trick or something like that. If you can just distribute, feel a little bit that this is not just, you know, something that will break like nothing. But we're actually going to break this arrow on your throat. And there is actually, we talk about biology, you know, there's actually a thing here. So does anybody know what the function of this soft spot on your throat is? Anybody know what the function is? No? It's for breaking arrows. Humanity has evolved to that extent. I want you to do a thing, but we need a little bit of help. So I want you, what is the barrier? You don't have to say it, keep it in yourself. But I want you, what is the barrier that limits you from really doing the stuff that you need? What is the thing that you want to break through? And normally if I do sessions like this, I have people write it down. So we're literally going to break through the barrier. So do you have it in mind?
There's some things in my life, and I do a lot of work and a few businesses. There are things that are holding me back. So yes, I got something in mind that it would enable me and greatly benefit me.
Excellent.
In my life.
Excellent. So he has a couple of barriers, and he's going to put it now on to really, get the full potential, because this is about unleashing human potential. So think about this, but you do it on behalf of all the barriers, of all the people that thought Frank has too much Red Bull, it will never work. But what we're going to do is the following, and I need your support for this, because he's going to do it on your behalf, so you need to give him a bit of energy, because, I told Mike no accidents will happen, but if you don't do your job... Okay, so what we're going to do...
No ambulance?
No ambulance, no, nothing first aid, no, nothing. You have to trust me on this one. So what we're going to do, this arrow, and I think you felt already, I already told Mike, it will hurt a little bit. So, yeah, good. So what we're going to do is you're going to put it on this little soft spot over here.
Very thin spot.
Exactly. Yeah, the thinner the better. No, you put it over there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it here so that it just doesn't jump out. So that's the only reason why I have this board.
It breaks away and doesn't work.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I don't give you that chance. No, sorry for that. So we're going to put it on your throat, but then I want you to do the following, and this is where your contribution to this event takes place. What I want you to do, because we need some help, and we're going to ask for the energy of the puma. When I did this course, it was in a shamanic retreat, so they always give you the animals to support you. Thus, we're going to help the use of the puma. So what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in with your arms, and puma, puma. He's getting a bit sweaty now, but I will get him through. When he starts, and this is serious, you're going to put your energy on it. So you're going to help him shout. So I want the whole crowd to actually say, puma. Puma. Listen to when he starts, and please join in. And after you do it 3-4 times, and you think you've got enough support from the crowd, you take a step forward.
Not towards you?
Towards me. I want you to come and hug me.
For the arrow in my throat?
And something magic will happen. Okay. Yeah? Good. We can do this together. So place it. You can place it with your so that you feel it's at least uncomfortable. No, put it a little bit more here, I think. Yeah, good. Yeah. Good. You start, Puma, and please help him. Puma.
Puma. Puma.
No, okay. You can do it.
Let's go.
You can do it. I trust you. Good. Nothing will happen. Puma. 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 Puma.
Puma.
Yeah, hey, Phil, you did it. That was scary, right? Yeah. Good. It was just in his mind initially when he pulled away and he thought it's not happening. Of course, I would never do this if it was not safe, I can tell you. Mike, we survived. What I would like you to do is, if you get home...
if I get home?
Yeah, now you can get home. So no, you can now relax. We're not going to do anything anymore. Wrap a piece of, wool on top of it, etc., and put it somewhere that every day when you pass by, it's just in my head. It's not really a barrier.
Thank you.
Big applause for Phil. Thank you very much. Well done. Good. There are some more arrows left for people that really are excited, But perhaps we can do, for the best questions for today, you can come and, we'll break another arrow. So, if it is only in our minds, now I want to make sure that you get inspiration. What are then the things that you actually can do? And when I thought about the question that Mike raised to me, he said, Frank, can you showcase, how can technology do good? I actually thought, okay, but what good do we then need to do? And then I thought, I can come up with my own things, but why not go to the authority on that one and actually go to the United Nations, and where they actually have the Sustainable Development Goals. So they have declared 17 sustainability goals. If we solve that, we basically solve all our problems. So these are the things. So what I want to do, and I'm not going to go through all 17 because that is my 3-hour version, but I will go and we'll go through a couple of them where I will showcase you. And what you will see that it's not only technology specialists It's also artists who come up with different kind of perspectives. So I hope that you will be a bit inspired by the coming things that we're going to do. So first I will start off quite simple. So this is a very good example when we go about, how do we tackle poverty, where technology actually has an impact. And one of the really cool things that I think came in the last years was microcredit. Because we have different way of tools now. In Africa, we don't go to a bank anymore. Everything is done via the mobile phone. And because I actually can now provide mini loans, all of a sudden people can start building businesses in areas where normally nobody would have been able to grow businesses. And particularly technology has enabled through microcredits the position of women in developing countries, who all of a sudden can start their own business. And by starting their own business, it's not only them that benefit from it, but it's actually, the environment, because then, they need more supplies, they need more employers, and all of a sudden, we start seeing growing things. And there are a couple of beautiful reports. Everything will be public, I believe, from the presentation, so you can download it. But go look at it, how can it actually change? Another one which is in the US, which is also a very interesting one, that if you are in financial problem and you will actually declare that you don't have money, you want to go into bankruptcy, you actually need to get a lawyer and you have to pay 1,500 euros to get you formally declared that you are in bankruptcy. Yeah, but if I don't have money, where the hell do I get 1,500 euros or dollars from? Think about it. And then there was actually a group of people that thought, can we not create a mobile app by which we actually can just do the application for them without any cost. But with that, also start then my debt relief. And with debt relief, hope comes. And with hope, outlook comes. And with outlook, prosperity comes. So just small techniques on how we can use technology, but inspired by different things to actually make a change. Yes, I'm from Capgemini. I will not show a lot of things, but there are two movies that I wanted to share because this was also created by people. So we have one project, Project Farm, which I think is one of the coolest projects that we did, where we had a crazy dude, you will see him in the video, who said, yeah, it's nice that we make money and blah, 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 but how can we now do something good for the world? And they said, let's do something where we really think we can make an impact with data. And he's a data scientist. And then he said, what if we can use open data to actually help deal with food crisis, and we can actually start doing something when it comes to elimination of hunger. And then they came with the following project, Project Smart, which really leverages a lot of different elements on how we can use technology.
Smallholder farmers feed half our world, and 80% of farming here in India is smallholder farming with 2 hectares of land.
The challenges that smallholder farmers face are many.
When they are doing certain traditional practices where farmers have been heavily using pesticides, fertilizers, the yields are also lesser.
Shifting financial markets, climate change, more pressure on land.
These farmers need information to get their yields to a higher quality and quantity. With Project Farm, we aim to bring that information to the farmers.
Capgemini is all about using tech to create positive lives at the society level.
So the Farm app contains features like soil analysis, seed calculation, optimal amounts of fertilizer to use.
What we do is we collect open source data such as weather data, satellite data, and combine it with expertise and formulas on how to improve farming.
The farmers enter information about the size of their plot and the variety they want to grow. From that, our algorithms determine how much and in which way the farmer should be sowing. The Farm application then provides a video, a tutorial on how to apply these seeds into the field. And this is just one example of how we provide clear instructions.
We will handhold the farmers on how to use technology.
We receive feedback from the farmers and explain to them in training sessions how to use this app.
To take more financially safe decisions as well as more environmentally sustainable decisions, while at the same time optimizing the yield.
We realize that Indian farmers require tech in an Indian version of it. And that's what Project Farm is doing.
Looking back, it makes me proud to see the impact we've made here in Maharashtra to smallholder farmers. And it doesn't end here. We aim to scale up farm globally.
If they only would now do a little bit more cheerful music, then it would be really perfect. I have to pass that on. The fun part is, so we actually use data to provide to farmers, but we can go further. So they are now actually looking at, hey, but if we now see that certain farmers go crops because we have the data and we see that everybody in the same area is doing that, then the problem is, we have an overload and actually, probably also less income from it. So, hey, we can optimize the yields. We can actually, make predictions, make recommendations so that they get more money out of the yield, but also better yield. And also based on where we are, you could also we can actually talk about, what kind of fertilization do you need to make, and probably not the bad ones. So just with using open data, actually looking at, satellite data, etc., all of a sudden the way how farmers are now using technology is just going to change a lot of things. And we need that if, indeed, as we saw it, we need to have so much more food on the table. If you look at it, it's also about health. So number 3 was health. And health is actually, also how can we leverage technology on this one. And this is a slide that I used for Roche, for the CIO day, where I gave it, different kind of example of how technology in the healthcare industry. So this is about 4 years ago where I said, the good thing is Apple now already, the whole watch, the only promise of the watch is basically health at this moment in time. They track everything from me. That's good. But I also predicted already the smart toilet. And the fun part was that this year in CES, the smart toilet was the biggest innovation.
The CES Tech Show in Las Vegas, Nevada is full of health gadgets this year. Connected devices are headed everywhere, even the toilet bowl. French firm Whiting's is debuting U-Scan, an at-home urine lab that provides nutrition tips and can tell women where they are in their menstrual cycle.
Okay, say there's 4 people in my family. How does this device detect whose urine is whose?
Yeah, there is no problem. So this is a mono-user device, and we have integrated a feature called Stream ID. We are able to actually recognize and identify the user who is urinating on the product. So we will only collect the urine when it's you using the product.
The results are delivered to a smartphone app, providing analysis and recommendations based on the data. U-Scan will be made available in Europe by the middle of 2023. A starter kit is expected to cost almost $500 US.
Sounds a lot, $500 but when it, the good thing is when it starts deploying, etc., we will see that the cost will dramatically go down. But this is, on multiple levels, a fantastic thing. So first of all, it recognizes you based on your pee. That for me was the most stunning thing I actually heard. Just. For women, I actually have to tell you something that perhaps you don't know. Well, if you have small children, you definitely know. Men have a specific problem. We don't aim properly. So actually, if you go in a urinoir, etc., they actually have goalposts, flies, stickers, etc. for us. I see some people nodding already here. For us to aim. Can you imagine what this device will do for that part of the problem? So we actually solve another problem as well. We will start learning to aim. All jokes aside, but if we now can take these kind of values and we can immediately see, well, actually, you need to do something in your nutrition, the food that you have perhaps is not good, you can change that immediately. One step further, with 3D printing, I don't have to have a generic medicine anymore, but based on the urine sample that the toilet will make for me in a couple of years' time, potentially if I have a certain disease, it will automatically print the medicine specifically to how I need it. If we are talking about longevity, then these are the technologies that actually are going to change it. And you will laugh right now, but 4 years ago I predicted the smart toilet, and this year it was there. There were 4 different vendors on doing that. This is a completely different example, and this example makes me extremely proud. It's the Van Kesteren Foundation. It's an uncle of mine. He made a lot of money working for Kuehne & Nagel in the board, but he didn't have children. And he said, the only reason why I got into the board of Kuehne & Nagel was actually because of education. And what I want is that with all the money that I gathered, I'm not going to leave it behind to you, Frank. Big disappointment. I said, I'm going to give it to charity, because if we educate children in poor countries, that's the way how we can get out of poverty. And that's actually what he is doing. But what is that to do with actually, you know, education as the fourth part? Well, what he said is, you know, then of course I also need to have a website, but I'm not going to have it built by a Swiss consulting firm. I actually go to one of the places where I supported education, and in Africa, he now supports an organization where, you know, they can now just develop with the same quality as we do here in Europe. Very good example on, you know, if you actually want to give money, but also do it with something in return that actually stimulates the education. And the fun part is, it actually is now being democratized. Because for 10 euros, I can do every course. I'm a big Udemy fan when it comes to singing courses or fighting courses or whatever I want to go, you know, for 11 euros, you know, I can be educated. And the good thing is, this is not only on a Udemy level, but actually also all the big universities at this moment in time actually start exposing their content and their knowledge for free online. The only thing what we now need to make sure is that everybody has access to good internet. And that is something where, of course, the Googles and the Facebooks and the SpaceX also are working on. SpaceX still at a price, but you know, let's work on that. When it comes to clean water, and this is a good example where technology is not only information technology, but also biotechnology, is that we actually already have devices where we can take any water source in the world, put it through filters, specific microorganisms within that filter, and you know, when you just push it through, you know, it's clean. We have the technology. The only question is, how do we scale? How do we make sure that this kind of technology gets into the hand of all the different people? And as I already said, and this is, the next example is really good also on when it comes to water, it's not only technologies. Perhaps we should learn from artists.
My name is Ab Verregge. I'm a sculptor and I'm an inventor. Since my early young years, I was highly fascinated by nature. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands and the rest of the world, climate change was a new phrase. People were talking about a hoax. It's stupid to believe in that kind of stories. At that moment, I thought, let's make an art project to convince people what's happening over here. And therefore we placed two huge sculptures on a drifting iceberg in the north of Greenland. So everybody worldwide could see live the voyage of discovery of my two sculptures. But after a voyage of 2 months, the iceberg collapsed because instead of -20 Celsius, it became +20 Celsius. So the reality overruled my project. After the iceberg project, I returned to the Netherlands and I was shocked. I realized what's happening up north. When it reaches us, our regions, we are in deep problems. So are we people able to find solutions for climate change when it hits us? I came up with the idea to build a completely self-sustainable glacier in the middle of the desert. We unite energy, water and food. The energy, you can see that the solar systems on the roof, they power the machine, the sun glacier machine. It produces water that falls down. The water is afterwards cleaned and reused to grow plants. Our technology is not really complex. What we do is we blow hot air inside a closed room, and inside the room there is a circulation of cold water. We have a basement that's filled with water. The water is cooled and pumped up to the roof, and by showers all the water drops go down through the air. But what happens? The hot air comes into the container and the moisture in the air attaches to the water drips, so they grow. And that's why we call it a growing waterfall. And that goes so fast that we can produce here between 1,000 and 2,000 liters of water a day, with a container that's in volume nearly empty. We built at least 60, 70, 80 prototypes before we invented a new method of condensation that would work everywhere on this planet. So what we see here, it's not a testing model, but this is the result of 10 years work. And I'm very proud to show it to the world in this unique setting. With multiple projects, we try to give a boost in showing that everybody has a future and a positive future.
It's amazing, eh? So it's an artist who actually thought, you know, I'm just going to drift two piles of ice from an iceberg and then show it to everybody, and then comes to the conclusion, you know, he should have talked with you before. You know, yeah, oh, they melted. But just doesn't give up and says, you know, then I'm going to do a different kind of concept. I'm going to build a glacier in the desert. And this was in the Dubai Expo. This was on the Dutch Expo, where they had this huge thing where, you know, he just grows things. And then you saw it already, you know, when the water then multiplies because we get the condense out of the air actually attached to the drips, then I can grow trees. If I can plant trees, and in India there's a very good example, I always see it on Facebook coming by, where a guy decides to plant trees in an area where there were no plants anymore. And then all of a sudden, you know, it starts growing, animals starts returning, but the temperature also drops. So if we can do this, we can start reverting things. But it was 78 prototypes, so we need to do a lot, of course, in order to do that. It needs solar panels, and this is also a very good example of what they did in Pakistan. In Pakistan, actually, they know they have a lot of sun. How can we leverage that? You know, we're going to do panels. But what they did is they actually took women and actually used it for women to be the engineers to do the installment. And actually that started increasing confidence because, you know, they were not really participants in the labor market. And all of a sudden, you know, wealth started growing. So if we do things, do it from an holistic perspective and do it smart. So I think very good example that this is not only about energy, this is also about equality. And perhaps therefore we need to think differently. And this is a slide from William McDonough. The couple slides are from them. I saw him giving a presentation and the guy just really rocked it. He was the author of Cradle to Cradle. So how can we really build, you know, circular economies? And he actually says, you know, carbon, we need to come with a new language because not all carbon is negative. Actually, there's also positive carbon that comes in the moment that it's green and then we actually work from it. So what we need to do is we need to start writing new design language. And I was in the design pattern presentation from today. You know, we need to think about frameworks, about design patterns. And he said, you know, if we then think about green, let's apply it. And this is the new NASA office. And they said, let's design it that it is just really net positive. Not zero or neutral, screw neutral. We're going to be carbon positive. So they designed the whole NASA headquarters. This is an example of Coolblue. Coolblue is the Amazon in the Netherlands. And they basically said, you know, yes, we're going to distribute a lot, etc. And if you now see them driving around, they always all have electrical scooters in the cities. And they said, you know, we have a huge warehouse, you know, put solar on it, you know. We're not going to use electricity to do that. We're going to just use it with solar. But he said, you know, if you are now a CEO, and this was in a room full of CEOs where he was talking, he said, the sad thing is you go home and you tell your children that you want to be zero or neutral, carbon neutral. Basically what you tell your children, we want to be less bad. Do you want to go to your children and say, I want to be less bad? No. What you want is you want to be more good. But think about the wordings. You know, if your child would come to you and said, okay, I will be less bad next time. No, that's not what you want to hear. So think about it. How are you going to be more good and not less bad? And he actually said, and I love this so much, consider this, all the ants on the planet taken together have a biomass greater than that of humans. Ants have been incredible industrialists for millions of years, yet their productivity nourishes plants, animals and souls. Human industry has been in full swing for a little over a century, yet it has brought about a decline in almost every ecosystem on the planet. Nature doesn't have a design problem. We do. Think about that. We need to change our language, we need to change our perspective. Of course, we also need to make sure that there's economic growth and decent work. And I think here, and of course, you know, a lot has been spoken already about automation today. Automation will be in so many other ways on how we can really, you know, increase the way on a cellular level almost we can do interventions when it comes to hospitals. But again, also, you know, how do we make sure that we get rid of repetitive work, but actually we can start focus on the added value stuff. And the next one for me is a very special one, which is about inclusivity. And inclusivity is not only about women in the workforce or minorities, etc. It's also about really making sure that everybody has the same chances. And for me, this movie is so good about how technology does that.
Sou o Dr. Davi, vou fazer teu exame.
Sim.
I love dramatic music, by the way. I think there's a trend.
Quando eu coloco a minha mão na barriga e sinto a cabecinha dele do outro lado, as mãozinhas mexendo, é como se a gente tivesse superpoderes e nada fosse fazer mal pra gente. Eu quero mostrar o mar pra ele sentir os grãozinhos de areia entre os dedos dos pés, o cheiro do sal, a brisa fresca no rosto. A mamãe tá louca pra sentir seu corpinho, seu rostinho, sua mãozinha. Você tá aqui, tá comigo, mas eu não posso te abraçar, te beijar. Então vem, mamãe tá contando os dias. Não precisa ter medo.
...146 batimentos por minuto.
Como que é o rostinho dele, doutor?
Olha, o narizinho é parecido com o teu. Tá com os dois olhinhos fechados.
Orelhinha,
como é que você imagina ele?
Ah, imagino ele... o nariz de batatinha, já, o senhor já falou. Boquinha pequenininha, sim. Mãozinha gordinha. Veja a hora de sentir o cheirinho dele.
É isso que você imagina.
Isso.
E se você conseguisse tocar neles, é assim que você determina como é que são essas características?
Isso. Queixinho fininho, boquinha pequenininha.
Você pegando nele, você sentiria?
Esse narizinho chatinho da mamãe de taboca.
É?
E sentir o cheirinho.
Tá sentindo alguma coisa? Tá aí teu filho.
Como assim?
Tá aí a imagem do teu filho. Vê se você sente do jeito que você estava pensando que é.
Eu sou seu filho. Tô muito feliz de conhecer o Murilo antes dele nascer. Obrigada, doutora.
Never thought that Huggies would be in my keynote, but this is what Marit, I think, also was talking about in a different sense, perhaps. But it's about how do we make impact. And for us, perhaps it doesn't seem like impact, but you know, if you are blind, you know, this is perhaps the most impactful thing that you can have when you are having a pregnancy. So this is again about, you know, how do we create equality. Another one is again, and this is an example on climate change and how can we think different and how can we create awareness as technologies towards the world. And this is a very small movie about a Dutch artist who thought like, you know, if we then have carbon in the air, how can we then actually take out of it but more importantly, how can we finance it? And he actually came up with a solution, and this is something that is actually implemented in Beijing at this moment in time and being rolled out. There it comes.
It's really weird that we accept it as something normal and take it for granted. I wanted to create a place where citizens, makers, NGOs and governments can experience clean air. A bubble of clean air, where people can think, meet and work together how to make a whole city smog-free. It's a place created by the largest air purifying in the world, which can travel a smog-free tower. In the future, waste should not exist. By putting the captured smog particles under high pressure, we create smog-free rings. And so by sharing a smog-free ring, you donate 1,000 cubic meters of clean air to the city where the smog-free tower is in.
I like this concept from Daan Rozengaarde, who actually said, you know, we need to have smog-free, we have the devices, we can do it, but what is actually smog? Well, it's carbon dioxide, but what is carbon dioxide more? It's diamonds, just under pressure. So what if we now take all the smog that is taken out of the air, and we can, you know, put high pressure on it, we can actually have artificial diamonds, and then we can sell it in order to finance more of those machines. So think about, you know, it's not only the context where you normally look at your problem, can you look at your problem from a different perspective? And what are the other challenges that we actually need to solve? And I think testing is there a good part on. Then, of course, we need to make sure that there's life on Earth. This is a very important one. Again, you know, a lot of data involved. So European Space Agency also has support on the biopole, where actually they just say, you know, we collect a lot of data from our satellites, but we're going to open it up for you, and please come up with examples on that. You know, unique blends, agri-tech, computer vision, and drones. What can you do with it if we provide you with more of that data? And this is the second example that I wanted to show on, you know, can we use it actually to do beetle attack? Because that causes harm to trees. So basically, you know, using the data out there, looking at it from a different perspective again, and then think, okay, how can we solve things? But then the question, of course, is, you know, what is now the relevancy for you? What is my call to action that I want to give to you? Well, first of all, just start thinking about it. You know, come up with ideas. And there is not something as a stupid idea. It's only an idea that is not tested yet. And I think that is something that we should just see. So just come up with ideas, think about it. If you have an idea, start collaborating about it. You know, key theme that I heard today through the different sessions that I attended, it's about how do we collaborate together. And there's one thing that I always would like to say. There's a very good book of Alex Pendland, which is The Social Physics, where he did research with open data, and he said, you know, where does now real wealth come from? And he says wealth comes from idea flow. So when there is idea flow, wealth gets created. And then he said, you know, what can we do and can I prove it? And it was really funny, and I will give you a little bit of the summary of the book. We'll save you an expensive book. He actually says, you know, he did tests where people in management teams, they had devices around them, and then actually they tested how flow of ideas in a management team meeting actually worked. Well, I don't know in your companies and in the meetings that you have, but I sometimes come into sessions where we have a monkey on the rock. And the gorilla on the rock is the one that actually, you know, talks a lot, and sometimes you have the deputy gorilla. I don't know, anybody recognizes it, or am I the only one? Yeah, okay, I see some people nodding. What he actually found out was that the management teams, where there was an equal distribution of time in conversation, in sharing ideas, actually resulted in more shareholders' value. So the performance of those companies where the management teams had an equal distribution in time of conversation actually showed, fact-based, that they performed better. So he said then the second thing is, and perhaps the most important part is, where do you get your information from? And your information should always be from outside. And the problem that we face nowadays with social and in all the traps that we fall into is that we are in echo chambers. We are in rooms where people just repeat the things that we have said. So you will get biased on your own things. So you need to actively make sure that you get your data from the outside. And he actually did an example, and I think that's a very good example, where they went to Detroit, and Detroit after 2007 was a shithole. You know, you didn't want to go there, automobile industry completely demolished, etc., huge crime rates, you know, poverty, etc. And then he said, how can we work with the government to actually change things? So, you know, we don't want to change things on the company level, can we actually do it on a societal level? And what they did is they started collecting mobile data. And from the mobile data, they could see if people actually started traveling between the different segments of Detroit, which was not the case. So if you were in a certain area of Detroit, you know, you stayed in that area. And then they said, okay, what can we now do to change that? Because if idea flow comes also from, you know, getting the inspiration from the outside, would that work also on a city level? And the measures that they took is they started making public transport extremely cheap, and they made it easier to go from one area to the city center or to another area, etc. So a lot of money was spent on public transport. And the moment that they did it, they could see that all of a sudden people started trafficking. And they didn't stay in their own room anymore. And the moment that that happened, they could see that crime rates dropped. That actually, you know, unemployment dropped. That welfare raised. So get your information from outside. And the good thing is, you know, yes, we are here with testers, etc., but you already came here because you wanted to have information from outside. But you have no idea how valuable you are in other communities, because you are the ones that ask the nasty questions. You are the ones, you know, that to tell them, and to quote Marit on it, your child is ugly. But in a friendly way. You can change and you can do that. Do it also from a philosophical standpoint. So, you know, you are so wise, you have so much. Don't only look at it from the testing perspective, but look broader on it. Try to be an artist. How would Daan Rozengaard or how would the other guy do it? You know, can I look at it from a different perspective? Be a little bit more philosophical. And in the end, if you have an idea, test, 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 and succeed. Musk is not the richest man on earth because of Tesla. He's the richest man on earth because of SpaceX. And he was several points to the moment that he almost failed completely, and you can have any opinion. I also have some opinions on him, but one of the things he really mastered was test, go in and test again, and iterate, and go fast, but with quality, not just testing the person. So I think I gave you all the ingredients. I think we can do everything in our minds what is possible to just change the world, and more is in your hands than you actually think. The only question is, can you break through your barrier? And the good thing is, Phil already did it on your behalf. So you don't have to do it anymore. But a lot of the times when you think, oh, my boss does not allow it. Martijn, he thought my boss will never allow me if I start Project Farm. And I said to him, why not? He said, yeah, because probably, we don't have hours for it. I said, did you ask? No. Just, and why don't you just start, and then we'll make it happen. Really? Yeah. And he made it happen. And now you see that we actually have Project Farm started. You saw the Dutch guy making air out of water. What was it? 69 prototypes. But now it's happening, and we're going to put it into place. A lot of the things why you think it will not work is just in your mind. You can always give me a call if you want to break through an arrow. Then we will never have this picture again anymore. As I told Mike, we're never going to talk about this shit anymore. We're only going to talk about how we really can change the world. Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah, question. Do you want to do the question and answers? Yeah? Oh.
Yes, the Q&A. Quickly, let's check. Puma.
Puma, yeah.
I guess there's no answer there. Okay.
There's no answer
yeah,
to that,
I get
no.
it. What do you think? What will be humanity's new greatest invention, and in IT?
Yeah, in IT, I think yesterday we had a discussion on it. I think generative AI is, for me, at this moment in time, the most exciting thing. But we don't know yet, will we use it for the good or the bad? I think AI, at least, is the most disruptive one. But again, I'm a technology optimist, and I think actually we will find the ways to good. But in our design, we need to prevent the bad. So that will be a designer's question.
Did you see the Terminator? Okay, let's go on. Great movie, both
but he'll
of them.
be back.
Yeah.
He'll be back.
How can we apply this to software testing?
Now, I think I always, I look at testers in a broader context. I think testers are the ones that come with the good questions, can challenge the status quo, and then we'll find, if we come with a solution, will it work? And if it doesn't work, what is the reason why it doesn't work? If you take testing from that perspective, your role in society will be bigger than only on the software testing. However, a lot of this, what you showed earlier, will only work if then the software will work. It's great that we turn water out of air, but if the systems don't work, nothing will happen, etc. So that is the second contribution. But think of yourself, what is the other role that I also can play within companies, which is other than only the software testing, but is your core skill, which is actually, finding problems where we can do things better, which is more than just software testing. So that's a bit where I want to challenge you.
Okay, I think this is a good one. Massive, oh, I thought the other one, okay, it somehow got into front. This is also good, don't get me wrong. Massive AI integration will lead to massive layoffs and unemployment, which causes economical instability. Is there any solution for this problem?
Well, it's a good question. Everybody knows now I love books. There are two books that I want to quote. One is Singularity is Near. So the premises of the Singularity is Near is we will solve these problems because, we will get perhaps more time, perhaps we need to think about different models on how you will get your income, but, new roles will appear. Yesterday we also had a discussion, who thought 2 years ago prompt engineering was a function? Nobody. Now, actually, it's one of the hottest professions that are out there. So, also with the internet, we thought, it will be massive disruption. You look how much, jobs that actually created. So he's a bit on the positive side. There's another book, which is The Future is Now, and it's quite funny because the guy of Singularity University, he is the he was attached to Google, but the guy who wrote The Future Is Now, he was one of the founding fathers of virtual reality, and he works for Microsoft. So it's a bit two worldviews. And he says, the problem that we face is that the Singularity guys are right that so much promise will be done, but there will always be a little bit of a gap where uncertainty comes in. And when there's uncertainty, people become uncomfortable, and if they're uncomfortable, there will be a bit of chaos, and then they do stupid things. And actually, I talked to somebody about that book in 2014, and that same person came back in 2016 when the American elections were there, and he said, remember that book 2 years ago, that we probably come in this chaos and disorder space. Are we not in there? I don't know. I think there will be disruption. I think what we really need to cater for is how do we make sure that people who are not as digital literate as we are, that they don't fall out of the boat. And there we have a duty actually as an industry to make sure that the world is not only there for the digital literate people. Yeah.
Wonderful, Frank. Thank you so very much. You're an awesome person. Huge applause.